Hello everyone, this is Bentley from Kent, Washington. We're going to do a few updates. We're going to start with these breeding rings that I've been using to raise quite a few of the new rainbow fry from Gary Lang. And as I mentioned in the previous video, I have a little problem with them, and you can probably see it clear as day. Now normally these have a like kind of white, very fine mesh screen bottom to help allow water flow through, but to make sure nothing can get up into there and nothing can get out. Um, this is like a week and a half of feeding. And this is feeding Sarah micron, so you're talking a 5 to 50 micron food. Very, very tiny. And I feed very small amounts because the babies don't need a ton of food. But they were getting fed typically about 4 times a day. Uh, and this is how much is in there. It makes this green, this brownish green layer, and over time, if I'm not cleaning it by hand, they get these kind of long, thin strands, almost like hair or slime algae, and that's just extra food that has broken down and kind of started to come together like an algae. And you can see from the top, there's kind of a gentle water flow, so it keeps oxygenation and stuff like that, and pulls through that little porous filter sponge that's on the bottom. And then this is sitting in a 40 breeder that has an AquaClear 110 on it that's helping to filter it. These are where the parva and the maculosus are. And speaking of the maculosus, I need to give you a very honest update on those guys. This is the ring they were in, and as you'll notice, there were no fish in there. We're gonna watch the zebra plecos for a little bit while I explain where I screwed up, and I'm not necessarily sure why. Unfortunately, with the maculosus, I probably had somewhere between, I would say, if we're real conservative, 30. More accurate estimate is probably about 40 babies swimming around in that thing. I was super happy about that. It's a fish I've really been looking forward to, and within 24 hours, I lost every single one of them. And the thing that kills me the most is I'm not sure why. I've gone over the couple of things that go through my head is that maybe that little layer of grime in the ring would was limiting just a little bit of flow, but then I paid attention and like I was never seeing more water. I wasn't seeing water get higher in the ring, and the ring wasn't having any kind of flotation issues. It was staying at the same amount, and it wasn't getting more water or getting heavier. So it leads me to believe that the water's going through there no problem. Um, Maybe because of the number of babies and because I have to feed a little bit more because of the number, but not a ton. Maybe some of them overfed, and that kind of caused a chain reaction in the same day when we lost some of them. Uh, Maybe they might have tried to feed on each other or something like that. Or there's less of them feeding, so others are eating excess food. And the final thing I thought of is like maybe because those things get so dirty, um, maybe some kind of like fungus was starting to grow that I didn't recognize, and it got them. But the confusing part is that in that same tank in the other ring were the parvas, and the parvas have been doing just fine. There were a lot less of them that hatched in the first place, so that's why I wonder about the number of hatched and some of the feeding rates and things like that. Um, but I have all of the parvas still, and I've since moved them out of that ring just because, as you saw, it's so dirty. My biggest thing is I would use those rings for a lot shorter time now. I think as soon as I knew every single fish had hatched, and maybe I'd given them 2 days after hatching, I would be moving them immediately. Or it'd be something as fish hatch, I might let them only be in there for a few days, and then I would find a way to very carefully move them using like a small container or something like that to a larger water system to limit the amount of food going in there and thus the buildup on the bottom of that screen. Uh, I mean, that's it. Unfortunately, I lost all the maculosus. I've got a lot of rainbow fish I still need to raise up from Gary before I consider reaching out to Gary and seeing if he'll sell me another thing of eggs. Like he helped me with the Alenais. He did that at no charge, which is amazing. And then I had this other mistake, which mistakes happen. Rainbows are extremely fragile. I don't know if I can say that as often enough, just for you folks that are ever thinking about raising your own rainbows. Even people that have experience can lose babies and can make mistakes. And it's really heartbreaking when you do, especially somebody like me. Like I get more enjoyment raising the baby fish than I do these days watching my adults. As crazy as that sounds, I've got these beautiful adults, and I don't get me wrong, I love sitting and watching those fish. I love interacting with them, especially at feeding time. Oh man, they're so eager. Anytime I walk across the tank, they're just screaming across the tank with me and begging for food, and I love it. But watching baby rainbows grow up, watching their body shape come in, watching their finish come in, and then eventually watching them color up. It's something that brings me an extreme amount of joy, and it's really hard to put into words. Um, every time I see a new baby hatch, like with the extra Lenni mop I've gotten from Gary, every time I count in the morning and I see a couple of extra babies, I have this just ear to ear grin, and I feel amazing. Um, so that's it. This is some water changes. You saw the zebras. Um, we'll do some more updates on the next video. I just wanted to give you some I'll let you know they're still there. They're still doing all right. I was water changing the big guppy tank, and as you saw at the top, that's Pokestamon octopus that I trimmed out. Um, Now keep in mind this is a 5 foot long tank, and you can see how far that Pokestamon reaches. So it's like almost 3 feet on its own, just because it is a little bunched up. It's not pulled perfectly straight. And you can see where it came from over there in the far left-hand side. And then in a sec, I'll be spinning around. You'll see some Clinopodium, Brown Eye, and the Franz Stoffel swords that are growing in there and looking really great. And just overall, aside from some Blackbeard algae, this tank's doing amazing, and I'm loving it to death. I love the fish. I love the plants. It's just been very fun. But anyway, guys, I have to give you that update. Even some of the people who you might look at as experts, we screw up too. So don't ever be discouraged when you make mistakes. Just always keep trying. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, be awesome, my friends.